Recording has been
everyone.
started.
Ankush here.
Good morning, everyone in United States, and good evening to our distinguished presenter and lecturer from India. We are here for our monthly distinguished lecture series as part of the activities of the Council for Strategic Affairs. And on my PowerPoint, you see our logo. And those of you who registered saw our flyer. So this is our flyer, how it was sent. The topic for today's distinguished lecture is Asymmetric Cyber Warfare, Lessons Learned from Ukraine. And our distinguished speaker is Balaji Venkateshwar. Just to be on record, today is Saturday, November 26, 2022 at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is 8:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time in New Delhi. A brief introduction about Council for Strategic Affairs. Council for Strategic Affairs imparts education in the field of international relations. The Council fosters discussion, dialogue, and debate on geopolitical issues. Council also encourages strategic studies in general to raise the level of awareness. CSA condemns terrorism in all its forms worldwide. CSA aims to contribute towards world peace and prosperity. We have several activities that include a monthly roundtable discussion held on second Saturday of each month at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a monthly guest lecture by a domain expert on the fourth Saturday of each month at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, like we are having now. CSA organizes meetings, symposia, and conferences. CSA promotes publication of articles on geopolitics and strategic affairs. And we do have a summer internship program for college students. This is our distinguished speaker, Balaji Venkateshwar. I'll give a very brief introduction. Balaji is a cybersecurity researcher and business executive with more than 25 years of experience and expertise in security analytics based improvised security posturing, hacking, and cyber defense. It's a highly technical field. He has innovated multiple solutions and created de-novo framework to raise the bar of cybersecurity control, and with 2 global patents granted to him, 5 filed, and 1 trade secret. He is adept at executing smarter decisions in climates of considerable risk with ever-bulging threat matrix for ensuring proactive cyber defense posturing. Currently, he is on advanced study on cybersecurity and use of simulators with an internationally acclaimed research organization, which is confidential. In his last assignment, he has worked as Executive Director, Cybersecurity for PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, and also worked on India's largest cyber defense project as key architecture and designer. Balaji has also worked for State Bank of India, India's largest bank, with Wipro as Head of Risk Management and Compliance, with Bank of America as Vice President for Global Information Security, for Global Delivery Center, CISO in India, and Security Matrix, a startup cybersecurity research as Chief Executive Officer. In order to contribute to cybersecurity ecosystem, resilience planning, and policy formulation at international and national level, Balaji represents following committees. He is member of Advisory Board for Global Cyber Olympics, member of the CII National Committee on Telecom and Broadband, co-chair of CII National Subcommittee on Cybersecurity. So he is an disputed expert in his area. And he is going to be talking about asymmetric warfare. What are the lessons learned from Ukraine? Those people who are following the war in Ukraine would think that this war started on February 24th, 2022, when Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine. But it's really not so. I'm going to put this picture. This guy is Yuri Yushiol. He's the chief of cybersecurity of Ukraine. And here you see a bot form of Russia. So we are talking about actually Russia-Ukraine cyber warfare since 1991, ongoing since the collapse of Soviet Union. Russian cyber weapon Euroburos had been around since 2005. The first attacks on information systems of private enterprises and state institutions of Ukraine were recorded during mass protests in 2013. In 2013, Operation Armageddon, a Russian campaign of systematic cyber espionage on the information systems of government agencies, law enforcement, and defense agencies began, which is thought to help Russia on the battlefield. Between 2013 and 2014, some information systems of Ukraine government agencies were affected by a computer virus known as Snake or Ouroboros or Turla. In February-March of 2014, as Russian troops entered Crimea, communication centers were raided and Ukraine's fiber optic cables were tampered with, cutting connection between the peninsula and mainland Ukraine. Additionally, Ukrainian government websites, news, social media were shut down or targeted in DDoS attacks, while cell phones of many Ukrainian parliamentarians were hacked or jammed. Ukrainian experts also stated that the beginning of cyber warfare with Russia, cybersecurity companies began to register an increase in number of cyber attacks on information systems in Ukraine. The victims of Russian cyber attacks were government agencies of Ukraine, the EU, the US, the defense agencies, international and regional defense and political organizations, think tanks, media, dissidents. As of 2015, researchers had identified two groups of Russian hackers who have been active in the Russian-Ukraine cyber war, the so-called APT-29, also known as Cozy Bear or Cozy Duke, and APT-28, known as Sophisy Group or Zar Team or Pawn Storm or Fancy Bear. So you see, the cyber war between Ukraine and Russia had started in 1991 itself. This is just from a recent article. Russia's new cyber warfare in Ukraine is fast, dirty, and relentless. This is an article by Andy Greenberg in Wired, published on November 10, 2022. So with that background, I'm going to invite our distinguished expert to enlighten us and educate us on this asymmetric warfare that is going on in Russia and Ukraine. Couple of housekeeping rules for our audience. Please keep your cell phone mute to avoid noise interference. Please change your cell phone setting to vibration modes. When our distinguished speaker is speaking, please do not interrupt him. Let him finish entire presentation before we will take questions. Only those members of the audience who identify themselves openly will be allowed to ask questions. No anonymous questioners, please. All the questions are moderated through chat function. If you don't send question through chat function, you won't be allowed to raise. Questions have to be brief, specific, and precise. Don't send lengthy comments or a lecture in the form of a monologue in chat function. Finally, this presentation is being recorded and it would be available on our YouTube channel, Rumble, Odyssey platform, and on our website within the next 24 hours. So without further ado, it's my distinct pleasure to invite such an eminent expert on cybersecurity, Mr. Balaji Venkateshwar. The floor is yours, sir. Please go ahead. You are muted, sir. Kindly unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adityan. Yeah. And all my viewers across the globe. Are you able to see my presentations? Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much, and welcome to each one of you. It's for the last, 4, 5 months, 6 month time, asymmetricity of cyber warfare has actually taken a new dimensions altogether. And last 3, 4 months time, I'm actually working on a compilations of asymmetricity in cyber warfare, post-Ukraine crisis, and trying to, document for entity Vivekananda foundations in India. And when I heard about this talk, so I said this is apt time to talk about lesson learned from Ukraine crisis. Adityanjee Foundations. Currently, we are engaged in cyber education research, and the study on asymmetric is a very large project with the government of Jharkhand in India, and to convert them into a full-fledged cyber defense corps of the world. And it's a 5-year program, and we are just working together as a partner. So when we talk about any two components remain very, it remains there irrespective of the ages, irrespective of the years, irrespective of nature of war: information warfare and cognitive warfare. Even the Julius Caesar date or the Mahabharata's days, information warfare and cognitive warfare were always there. And in the cyberspace, journey has become a lot more easier and lot more almost like an arsenal. It is being utilized by adversary countries from across the globe. And not a single entity is having hegemony that they are running this war, information every building country capabilities. Third heads of warfare.
Balaji, we are having some difficulty with sound.
The can say cyber warfare. Let me stop my video if that works, because I'm in a hotel in Mochi. So is it better now? Okay. So when it comes to the cyber war here, this is definitely a very important, agenda to discuss and comprehend the dimension of cyber war. But information war and cognitive war very important. I give you small examples of those cognitive information war. Our team carried out a study of around 400 videos, which was being run by the top class media companies from across the globes. I won't say that it was a fact-checking missions, but really wanted to know where actually it has happened. Out of those 406 video, we carried out, metadata analysis, and then we realized around 300 of them, which is 3/4 of, the total number of study that we carried out, it didn't have any metadata attached to it, which is a very clear sign that it was a fake items. Some of the components, and it is not just from one side, maybe from the NATO side, from Ukraine side, as well as from Russia side. Everybody is playing the game. So in the game, you have the similar tactics, similar trade crafts, and similar design of approach. One couple of very interesting thing that we noticed, that even if the metadata is correct, the metadata does not show the longitude of uh, the real warfare effort that is happening on the Ukraine and Russia side. Many of those videos we are having, technically they were the video shoot that has been done, or maybe it is the VFX effect that has been created in the Hollywood and the Bollywood studios, rather than some of the components were even having any close close things with Ukraine and Russia warfare. When it comes to the stories which is being floated around every now and then with very distinct videos that Putin's hands are not working properly, his face is pale, and then a large story comes with very distinct problem that he's undergoing, or sometime it comes that the Ukraine is a deep problem. Things has been totally captured. And when you go into the ground reality of it and try to check some of those components, then you realize that some of these photograph does not make any sense. They are part of the larger game of information warfare. Cognitive warfare is another very interesting area, which is a part of the overall information warfare, but it has got a very unique dimension to it. Whether it is the election of US or election of India or election of a president of any country across the world, the awareness for adversaries, they really want to, they people, and, and social media become ubiquitous as a you are what for Gulf like uh, many of the countries, Gulf, presidents were taken away, and the new government has been put into there. Social media's role has been really understood that it is potentially a cyber warfare, where the cognitive warfare actually changes the minds and moods of the people, and the governments are overturned overnight. Uh, in case of post-Ukraine crisis, if you look into the cognitive warfare part of it, okay, there are hundreds of words are happening, and the media becomes a very important and strategic warfare tools. Uh, and many times the media floats the information. Some of them later on they say that we have not done good editing and it was a fake components. When they came to know that entire world is knowing that they are part of the fake campaign, and then suddenly there will be one disclaimer, a small disclaimer that you and I will not be able to read. If you look into the various crises which has happened, and the change of government guard has happened in many of the European nations, and some efforts were there even in the Canada, where the farmers were agitating. Cyber and cognitive warfare has worked together hand in hand. And if you look into the Italy crisis and the right wingers, in Italy taking over the government and the farmers were agitating, many times, this information has been overplayed and changed the mood of the people in the country. As I speak, Iran is actually witnessing the similar type of, capabilities, and the cognitive warfare tools are being utilized in bulk actually. Whether the people are actually fighting against government or not, many of these informations, when I analyze with my friends in Iran, being part of the same cyber capability teams, and then you realize that many of those informations are fake information which are being floated, and it is being done by the mainstream media. So cognitive warfare and information warfare is a part of every war, and it's no wonder that it is being utilized uh, post-Ukraine crisis, and everybody is playing the way. It is a game of the NATO. It is a game of the uh, Russian friends. It's a game of the BRICS. Even sometime it goes against India as well, and sometime we try to build some countermeasures around those cognitive capabilities. And needless to say that information warfare and cognitive warfare in the days of cyber warfare have become very, very potent weapon, and it has got the capability, and we can very clearly say it is no longer a tool; it is precision weapon to really achieve the goals, whatever is targeted against that program. Uh, and it's no wonder that every country is trying to restrict the internet access within that country. China started the game. Russia has followed 2 years back. They have actually cut off the internet. If they want to cut off the internet of the rest of the world, they can do it with a chop off, hands. And many countries started following the same design, and which only says that information warfare and cognitive warfare is really resetting the geopolitical decisioning of every countries. Where internet was ubiquitous, it was globally maintained. Everybody wants to have a closed door, internet. Particularly, the government agencies, those who really want to make sure that the bad hands does not play, and the free and fair election happens. Democratic way of forming a government continues. They become worried, and then they suggest it is good on so latest blaming the for China. It's the world. It's not democracy. But many countries, small countries, started making noises that their election processes are being interfered. And during Ukraine time, again, many of the European countries faced significantly large amount of political crisis, including the crisis in UK, where the government has changed, and again, government is almost on the verge of changing. The mood of the people changes because of cognitive warfare tools and precision tools against information warfare. So there is no into the attacks. If I count the attacks, it is innumerable. But some of them are worth mentioning, and I thought it will be good and apt time to discuss some of them, not all of them, but some of them. One thing was very clear, that this time cyber attack was not a horizon scan and any systems is being crushed. No, every time a particular company has been targeted, the motive has been well defined. If you remember the date of 28th February, when the Germany lended support to Ukraine, on the same night, their oil tanking company undergone massive cyber attacks. Means whoever the attackers, they are having precision tools, and they no longer want to target anything which is not important. Anything that is important, which is going to change the geopolitical scenarios in favor of others, uh, they are ready to put the target. And the precision tools which is used first time, it's able to hit the bullseye every time. So 28th February, oil tanking company being massively attacked. The motives clearly suggest it is the Russians or Russian friends. They might have done it. And many times it might not have been done by Russia and Russian friends, but the friends of Russia in the anon world or anonymous world, sometimes they join hand together, activists, and then they start attacking. 28th February was a brutal reminder because the oil price on 28th February was still stable despite the 4 days of war. Technically the war started on 22nd and 23rd, February, and 28th February it was still stable. Suddenly the market started collapsing for the oil, and the oil price gone up from $80 per barrel to $103 per barrel overnight. Russia, the German teams, they wanted to supply the oils, but they had no way to supply the oils, and there was a demand-supply mismatch, and there was a disruptions, and the price goes up because if the demand is very high and supply is negligible, then prices start going skyrocketing, rocketing. Same time, if you remember that many of the technology company has left the Russia, and overnight, I'll give an example for that. Uh, that a company Verizon, they suddenly said that will not no longer our certificates SSL will no longer be valid in Russia, and they just withdrew, and they have done the certificate revocations. And then a bulk of company, more than 100 odd companies, they left the Russian operations, and vice versa. There were many companies, those who were actually supporting Ukraine team and NATO team, they started, withdrawing some of the capabilities. And but tech team played a significantly large role in supporting the government, those who were in favor of Ukraine. And suddenly, overnight, Russia, felt the pain of not having many of the technology in their hands. Office 365 has been, totally withdrawn overnight. Microsoft, operating system stopped functioning, providing no patches were available to them. Technically, they were breaching the copyright and the intellectual property violations has been seen. And then there was many such attacks were happening on the Windows systems, which was not being patched. I remember, as a researcher, that almost every week, every Tuesday, when the Microsoft releases the patch, the number of patches released by them was in sometime it was 100, 150, clubbed together as one particular updates. Which means, there are a lot of flaws were being found and it was being patched. And same time, Russia was not having access to those patches because the patches were not available to them. So now, if you look into the next part of the story, Microsoft Office 365 has been brutally breached in August. And almost yesterday's news has come from European Union that Office 365 of Microsoft not fit for purpose as far as the GDPR is concerned. It was a brutal blow to entire Microsoft capability to use Office 365 in European Union. Same time, if you look into many other small tools that was withdrawn, like Cisco has taken out from there, Cisco's major data breaches happened. South Korea, the Samsung has technically, South Korea has said will not do any business with Russia, and a major, massive blow has happened to Samsung's, intellectual property. And as a matter of fact, that data, the huge amount of data. That was intellectual property data. It was not the information about individuals, but it was all about the all the tools and technology that they were using for making the Samsung successful. Those information in the public space. Same time, the NVIDIA attack was a brutal reminder that NVIDIA has actually withdrawn from Russia, and suddenly an NVIDIA's major system breach has happened, which means NVIDIA's entire capability, whatever they were having, the unique capabilities, was lying on the public domains, for months together. I remember that, it was being sold out by multiple groups. It was available in the public domain just like that, in the dark web, and sometime it is in the open web, like in private chat of telegrams. So when you look into a very specific capabilities, that withdrawal of technology companies from Russia was a brutal blow to Russia, and Russia revenged, using a cyber warfare tool. And every time they took the revenge, it was with precision, which means the target was known, target was hit, and was brutally breached, so that anything and everything was there about those companies were up in the public space. And then tomorrow you will have many such tools available in the public domain as a competitor, which so far these companies were doing it, on their own. India has also witnessed significant amount of cyber attack, and it's quite clear that India has taken a stand. I'm not talking about India's view, government of India views, but my own views that India has right to decide certain things which makes their life of the people of the country, easy going. Power crisis or the fuel crisis would have really aggravated the India's balance of payment positions, and India has taken a call that they will continue to operate in Russia and will take the oils and gas, as a part of required at a lower price, and they continue to do that even today. Uh, and the biggest two companies, those who are actually procuring this oil, was Oil India was one of them, and they have been brutally breached. There was a massive ransomware attack has happened as early as April, May, June time frame, and the impact was massive. Almost 1.5 months, they were struggling to really recover from some of those, and it came in the newspaper that there was a ransomware attack and it will cost you somewhere around $10 million, and government of India didn't pay that, and then there was a complete different strategy of recovery stage. One more thing, it is worth mentioning that one very good has been seen in the last 6 or 8 months of attack, that incident response team has really become up and and they have started working in a very, very dynamic way to recover and respond to a crisis in a very, very subtle way and very, very effective way many times. It's not that, it's only the attack has happened and they become crippled and they could not recover. But many times the good story that they actually detected the attacks, massive attack, even though it happened already, but they detected and they recovered from those debris, in a very short span of time. If I look into the India's gamut of attacks, there was one attack that happened, the massive attack on the JNPT, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, which is one of the largest port trusts of India, and suddenly 2 3 days there was no cargo movement because of cyber attacks. And many similar attacks is happening almost as I speak. There is an attack on the All India Institute of Medical Science. There are key systems which actually does the entire plannings, the which person will look into the which doctors, because that hospital handles almost every day around 15,000 to 20,000 people, and the rostering is a very, very precise computer assisted programs, and those programs were not available for last few days time. So many times you are not party to the war, but you have actually supported the war. So some group of the people will not like you and they will attack you. And every time these attacks has been persistent attacks. So the target was chosen and the target has been destroyed. It was not same in the last 10 20 years of cyber warfare journey, cyber attacks journey, and that is the reason is a new dimension has come. It is absolutely a precision cyber warfare tools and technology. If you look into the major government, those who supported Russia, to report supported NATO move and Ukraine, and you'll find that many of those government has been attacked brutally. Ukraine state, Ukraine, attack is a black energy attack, malware attack is a brutal reminder that even the most secured systems on the earth, which is a nuclear systems, they have been targeted and they have been breached. If you look into the Greek natural gas distributed attack, it was amazing because Greek was actually supplying some surplus gases to the European Union, and it was in the notice, and they had some surplus, and their system has been attacked, which means the Europe was actually breathing in pain because of gas crisis, and if attack happens, then gas crisis will deepen during the cold time, and that is the reason why this attack has been carried out. If you look into the attacks on Estonia, again NATO's headquarters Tallinn, it's even the most tightly managed security systems can be breached with precision. So war is now in a cyber war is in a new dimensions, that they are not going to target everything anytime, because they also feel the pinch of the resource crisis. While the capacity is the key constraint everywhere on the earth. If you look into the US government's the latest funding that has been done, almost $2.5 billion funding has been given for creating next generation cyber defense capability and offense capabilities. And the capacity building across the globe has become a challenge. And the wartime is the target. So not this. This that first it didn't many times procedures, this they happen because can first time it didn't happen are built in the real time basis, and which it doesn't feel the of sharing in the apps and it is sharing and analysis and really 60 time for and sleep has get many attack lessons just second attack have started building up the rule then the second attack will not happen. So that is also a good learning out of Ukraine crisis, which information sharing was a very gung-ho type of situations. Many organizations, they used to take the information, but they never used to divulge their attack information to the community. As a matter of fact, in India, 13 has come out with a very interesting legislation. Computer Emergency Response Team of India has come out with very nice legislation that every incident of importance need to be reported within 6 hours time. And if these reports comes to certain on a real time basis, possibly the countermeasure building against the second attacks will be much faster, much quicker, and much nimble way of handling the cyber attacks. Another dimension of cyber attack has been it's little technical, but open source. Everybody uses open source technology. Many times they say it's a closed source technology, but they use open source components as a part of their closed source technology. And if you look into the last 6 to 12 months time, open source has been punctured brutally. Almost every component of open source, and not one country or two country or one attacker or two attackers, but multiple attackers are actually puncturing those open source tools and technology, so that when you download things from there, your system gets punctured same time. And open source is ubiquitous. It's very difficult to detect it. If I remember that FortiGates, some Java component, yeah, uh, which was just a brutal reminder that they had to repackage everything with a new updated versions across the globe, in a very short span of time. Same thing, the Cisco, they found the bug, and they found that the bug is so widely present because of open source technology. uh, and changing them has been a real nightmare for organization, because component by component changing those small systems and subsystem level information is not that easy. So open source, technology, while it provides a very quick hill and quick uh, methods of building a large scale platform, but time has come to rethink our strategy, that whether we should have the update system coming from open source within the public domain, or should we have a closed source open source systems which is being done in a very closed way. And again, then there comes that the speed of getting things curated in open source is a very critical component which can never be achieved in the closed source capability. So it's almost like we most of the organization started making a strategy that how we can reduce the open source component in our own closed source components, so that we can reduce the attack surface area in a systematic manner. So technically, open source technology and supply chain breach has become the new game for mass hacking, because if a component is plugged, a platform is punctured, then same platforms are available across the globe, and then the target can be easily chosen to attack, do a precision attack at any point of time. One very interesting dimensions, and Starlink is just, taking that, the first credit for that. Starlink, from Tesla, this is amazing broadband communication using satellite technology. Uh, at the time of crisis, when the internet service provider were totally dysfunctional in Ukraine, Starlink was able to provide the breathing support to the warring nations, particularly Ukraine, at a time of most critical journey of a warfare. Reliability of internet service, during the wartime has become a point to think, because internet service providers uses technologies from adversary countries, and particularly in India, we do have friends, the best friend China. Almost every component system and subsystems at hardware level comes from them. Reliability and trustworthiness of those compute systems has been questioned beyond what in the last 6 to 12 months time. And everybody understands now globally that any tool which is coming from adversary nations, if you are at war with them, sometime it may not work even. And I remember the very early days of my childhood days, the Iraq war, the Scud missile could never be fired on the American entity, whatever with the reasons, the same, if the warring to use, it will that
There is
brings
some disruption from your side,
uncertainty.
Balaji.
That same
Please.
country of a associate or at how slow that
Balaji.
to
There is a lot of disruption from your side. Can you please check your connection?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, create. Okay. Is my voice audible now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wonderful. So when it comes to the ubiquitous internet is not available to you at the time when you need it most, it becomes very challenging. And a small country, the developing nations, when they are with war with the neighboring countries, and if their internet service provider is not functional, possibly small countries, they will not be able to create their own, satellite systems to provide the broadband services. And the entire war can be, just be finished by destroying your internet service provider. So time has come to rethink a strategy globally that during the war zone, ad hoc network-based communications need to be present, and a new method need to develop. And I think quite a bit of work has been done in Russia in the last 4 to 5 months time, and some of those information which has come out, in the public domain. If you do the analysis of that, you will find that mobile phone without internet service providers was actually working by the ubiquitous presence by using the peer-to-peer communications, and then using the peer-to-peer nodes to do the far-reaching communication to 100 kilometer, 200 kilometer, and 500 kilometers. And I think time has to come to think that, at the time when the internet service provider will not function, how the country will survive against that, and that becomes a great lessons learned from Ukraine crisis. If you look into, the domain of digital infra has become a tool of war. And it was very clear when the war started. Uh, the China had a big pandemic which is still going on. I don't know whether it's a pandemic or it is still part of your information warfare. Nobody understand that, because a closed door society, it's very difficult to know. And many times, the chips comes from China, and if chips are not available, then there will be a widespread crisis of digital infrastructure, and the supply chain will actually get disrupted if the chips are not available. So digital infrastructure has become a part of warfare, and I remember that I have read, a NATO manual way back, around 7 8 years back, uh, that digital infra need to be treated as a for domain, purpose, and for dominance. And I think Ukraine war has clearly shows that the entire, competitions, power centers with each elements are shifting towards digital infrastructure. And it was a very, very interesting, component, because when I was going into analysis of how the digital infrastructure has become disruptive against Russia to weaken them in their, cyber attacks. And till 2 years back, everybody is talking that Russia is having super capability of hacking, and they have the capability to destroy anyone and everyone. But if you look into the post-Ukraine crisis, you will find they are still choosy and selective target. They are hitting it. They are not going omnibus. They are not going everywhere. Maybe, digital infrastructure absence, to them, particularly the NVIDIA, and, the capability is not available. So they are unable to really go up ante against the real omnibus target. As a matter of fact, digital infrastructure's evolutions may affect the warfare in substantial way, because ownership of access to and control over digital infrastructure by a adversary or an actor can reduce country's national DI is significant troubles. So if you look into, some capability like, SSL was withdrawn from Russia, and for few days, Russia was actually without any SSL. And that week was the worst week in the history of Russians, cyber attack, because interceptions and many companies data has been breached because the information was traversing on the internet without having an SSL encryptions on the top of the layers. They could recover from that using OpenVPN and their own version of the VPNs and the SSLs, but it took time. And if you look into the dark web channel where the data is being sold of it hackers used to network all the digital infrastructure has been used against
We have
them as a
lost your
warfare
voice
tool.
again, Balaji.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me
we
stop
lost
it
your
here.
voice. Can you repeat your last sentence?
Yeah. So I was saying that, Russia, uh, despite best of the breed, hacking capability they have built, and everybody knew that they have the deeper capabilities. Russia lost some of this battle because they have lost their own data sets, and many companies have been breached because digital infrastructure was not available to them. Overnight, it has changed everything. So in the week when the SSL encryptions has been revoked and the SSL keys were not available with Russian entities, that 2 weeks of cyber attack has been a history in the world where more than 600 terabyte of information of the personally identifiable information put into the public domain, and which has been very closely guarded, the informations of Russia, it was absolutely lying naked on the public domain. So characteristics of future security environments are likely to shifting because of the digital infrastructure and have the potential to disrupt even the Indian way of war and traditional approach of power projections. So this is one of the very important learning, that when the digital infrastructure is coming from your adversary countries, we need to build the resilience irrespective whether we have it or whether we don't have it. And I think sometime it becomes very difficult for small countries, those who are developing their own capabilities, but infrastructure like digital infrastructure, creating your own server farms, creating your own compute systems, and having your own foundry, it is not an easy job. It takes months and years of effort of a country to build that sort of capabilities. So many of those developing nations will simply fail to deliver if the Western hegemony and the Russian hegemony continues to proliferate, and many of the small countries, they will not be able to recover if that they are being attacked, both those mighties, at any point of time. So some more very important dimensions, if you look into that, earlier everybody was thinking I need to have a physical presence next to your countries. I remember that as early as 79, my childhood days, I heard that Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean has been uh, re-christianed as an American security base. And many countries, they started operating from different countries. The Philippines had the American base, then you have the Korea had an American base, Bahrain had an American base, Pakistan had an American base. So like many countries, the Westerns, world, we are having the footprints close to the warring nations. But in the time of cyber warfare, your country's footprint doesn't matter. Where you are, whether you are in Timbuktu or whether you are sitting in the same country, makes no difference. In a cyber warfare, everything can be altered, including the government and the geographies. You can do it remotely, or you can do it sitting in the same place, being anonymous at from any place. So the power projections, which was set by physical presence sometime in 10 year, 20 years back, has no more meaning today, because those power projections, going for a, symmetric war is not an easy war that you can't fight. You cannot get exposed that you are in war with others on a regular basis. But when you fight with a entity like anonymous, ghost annons type of people, nobody knows that you are behind it, but still you are working for it. So uh, our projections of being near to the battlefield has no meaning in the today's world. This is one of the major learning, I believe, from the cyber warfare strategy. One very interesting thing, there is a growing rise and importance of dual use technologies and capabilities. Same technology is being used for one purpose, for getting the business, and same technology is being used for a warfare tools. Uh, Presence of backdoors in many of the computer systems, presence of uh, many of the malwares, built-in malwares, which are available, the bugs. Some of them are really very painful, and it's very difficult to challenge that sort of design. So importance of dual use technology, while the same GPS is being used by you and me, and same GPS is being used by the those who have created the GPS for tracking you where you are going if you are a person of interest. So cyber warfare has taken a new dimension, and dual use technology is being seen as one of the power projections into components. One very interesting dimensions of democratization of signal intelligence and ubiquity of open source intelligence. Earlier, people used to spend on closed source intelligence. Agents used to be hired in every country. They used to spend huge amount of money. Now, with the ubiquitous presence of internet and open source intelligence, and this many of the signals intelligence which are available to every country, it's very easy to really build a large scale capabilities and countermeasures against the potential attacks. And many of these big and mighty countries, they have already built these capabilities, and many of the growing countries, they are building this capability to create a equivalence in the area of warfare. Uh, with reduction of size of every chip, the potence of the warfare weapon is growing up multiple fold. And performing availability of the high performance chips now with small and mighty both, had changed the way things are done. I remember that, when we used to look for really doing some bit of interesting stuff with high end processing capabilities. In yesteryears, it was very difficult to carry out in your home environment. You can do it in an environment of NASA, or you can do environment of some larger scale research work. But as the digital divide gets reduced with every challenging day, many of these compute systems are available to individuals to really challenge the hegemony of the top and mighty across the globe. So I see many of the small countries, they are building the capabilities which is far too potent. Many time then country like Estonia has built amazing capabilities. It's very small countries, but very powerfully they have developed their own capabilities around that. And like that, there are many small countries. If you look into the even the Iran's, the massive cyber ops that they are doing it, against the top and mighty. You must give them a credit for that. But small nations, they can build this capability. But I think credit goes not just to the mind, the brilliant mind they have it, but also to the chips, the high performance chips which are available to them, and which brings the democracy in the warfare world of the cyber warfare. So new electronic warfare and cyber capabilities that will render command and control communications more, towards more networks will become vulnerables. And now if you look into the horizon scan, which is being done by the mighty countries, when the same horizon scans are being done by small countries. I remember, when I'm just quoting you the name of my website, cybervidyapeeth.in. We got a horizon scan of my websites more than 6 million times in the last 1 month time, which means, a complete Indian CIDR blocks are being analyzed. We are just a small entity, a startup in the education space. We are not, organization of interest for any one of them. But horizon scan happens, and the small countries like Malaysia, Indonesia is carrying out massive, Pakistan carrying massive risk of horizon scanning, which challenges and even if it doesn't matter in the warfare world. I think the worst was yet to come till 2022, when the tsunami of cyber attack happened in the year 2008, with the birth of a real mighty malware, Stuxnet. After that, we have not seen such major attack on the industrial control systems. Industrial control systems and bits and pieces attacks are happening because of stupidity of the cyber defense engineers rather than the capability of the attackers. But in the last 6 month time, it has changed the dimensions altogether. A new dimension of the warfare in industrial control systems or SCADA systems has become so potent that not only they can take control of your systems but they can actually burn your systems beyond repair actually. At a time, and I can quote one example, because I found some very interesting materials from one of the Russian entity. There is something known as Destroyer 2.0, which everybody claimed, every magazine claimed that it has come from Russia. And when I started going deeper into it, I found that particular, malware has been used against a Russian entity. And the entity was an important entity because in a warfare you need the ballistic missiles. You require the precision, metallurgy, on top of these missiles. Now the company, those who actually manufacture those, components, exclusive ballistic missiles, outer layer, top class metallurgy company, they have been brutally breached, and some of the robotic arms have been burnt beyond repair. Now, a new dimension has been seen that even the robotic arms can be burnt remotely by a cyber attacker. It has never been witnessed in the history. It is a new dimension of cyber warfare. Burning a computer, burning a mobile phones remotely looks, like a Hollywood and Bollywood movie. But if you look into the potentials of, some of these in Destroyer 2.0 or 3.0, 3.0 had just come 4 days back. And, I can tell you that, whatever little information is available with us on that component, it's really shocking. I can tell you that they have capability to burn the systems beyond repair. And many times when the supply chain is in mess and your system gets, robotic arms gets, burned, it takes years or 2 years or 3 years to build the same capability. Means, your entire production capability of industrial control systems will go for a toss. Your industry will be nowhere to survive. And then your warring capability will come down drastically and you will lose the war because your control systems are not functional. So one very interesting dimensions, has been seen that many of these, cyber attacks, even if it is happening from the same country, it is not visible. I remember that, when I was with one of the bank of the American entity, we used to dive into the small attribution of four layer or 5 layer attributions, and we used to be theoretical told that if the attribution is beyond able to hackers know, it is impossible to know somebody sitting next to you is attacking you. So again, it's a truly invisible, capability of the attacker, has given a new dimension of cyber warfare. So somebody is sitting within your organization is doing the hits. It's very difficult to recover in current days design. And that has really created a toll because many of the Ukrainian systems has been burnt because somebody was sitting inside there and it is impossible to attribute it back to him or her. One very interesting thing has happened. I think it's worth learning and emulating in every country or every organization, that if one house has been, hacked, with a particular potent, cyber warfare tools, uh, I'll call him, that organization is a martyr because he died during the war. But if second organization dies because of the same reasons, then I think, there is something to blame in the systems that we are not having information. Actually, a country which could have, and even if you like it or don't like it, Russians, they did this amazing work. You know, uh, if you go into their regular certain and see the level of information they are sharing on a real-time basis. The attack happens at 2 o'clock, 2:03, 2:05. The attacks informations are leaked out, and it is sent to every organization. They can download it from public domain. The precision, the timings, the short span of time, the way the control and command systems, informations are being shared by the government in a real-time basis, make it hard for a second level of attack using the same tools. And it's an amazing lesson learned. I think sharing is caring. We used to hear every day, in a Sanatan Dharma, it's a very, very common thing, sharing is real caring. But sharing information about the attack, irrespective of which stature of size attacks are there, it is a time to really plan it out and execute on a real-time basis so that second house does not get attacked with the same weapon. One very interesting thing has happened because there is a deep capacity issues as cyber is concerned. Almost every country, if you look into the Michael Page, the world's one of the largest HR consulting company, they say they have got around 3.1 million jobs open for cyber engineers, cyber defense engineers, and they don't have anyone taker for 11-month time. So during this time, many of the hackers, those who were playing as a small time player, they have been hired by the large and big company, the mighty countries, to use their skills at the time of cyber warfare. Now, suppose if you have built a good database of all those, small time attackers, which was very much possible because they were not anonymous, possibly you could have contained the damage to the large. So one of the very interesting learning out of this, the hackers directory is a great weapon for meeting capacity need during the wartime against the payouts. Number one. Number two, the same lead can be used for knowing their specific capabilities to really making them a dysfunctional at the time of the war. So let me summarize my, what will the security dimensions, the first thing that one must, build is defense against military invasion is now requires most countries, the ability to disperse and distribute digital operations and data assets across the border into other countries. And two very interesting things from the Ukraine war, one that, many of their critical compute systems were not in Ukraine. They have moved their, digital infrastructure to some other countries from there they were operating. So many that's provider has in one actually established ballistic missiles, but they were still operating, which means that if you're a small country, you have to disperse and build the resiliency in design itself, so that if one particular target is hit, you are still remain operational at the time of war. Because in the war can be won and lost if your digital infrastructure is present or absent. The second is the recent advances in cyber threat intelligence and endpoint protections. If you look into the ability to create a countermeasures for attack within days, somewhere within time. If you look into the Microsoft, the way they have done the packaging against the countermeasures or the patches, the number of patches they have released in this year, they have not released it jointly in the last 5 years time. That reduces the attack surface area significantly, and that is also important. very organized that information so that can then process is the like you will be really and one almost scan of countries clearly has gone up against network penetration, spineless targeting, allied god engagement, and going on in a big campaign. Small countries are actually able to achieve these objectives. If you want to really build your own capability against cyber warfare, it is not that you need to create the cyber arsenals, but first build the intelligence capability, threat intelligence capability, so that know who your adversary, how powerful they are, and where they are sitting within your own systems. And that can reduce the attack surface area significantly. The fourth component is in coordination with these other cyber activities, country agencies are conducting global cyber influence operations to support their war efforts. So if you look into, the Iran's study in the last, 2 months time, since the, death of that girl with a hazard, if you look into the last 2 months time, the Ghostek Anan is doing significantly large amount of cyber operations. And they are actually trying to disrupt the Iranian government way beyond their capabilities. Now, this type of coordinations and conducting cyber operations by a third party entity whose name is not known to any one of you can be a tool of cyber operations and can be a tool for success in cyber warfare. Fifth, the lesson from Ukraine call for coordinated and comprehensive strategy to strengthen defense against full range of cyber disruptive espionage and influence operations. If any country is not building this capability, they are bound to fail even they have got nuclear missiles with them. Because many times the country will falter just because they don't have the strategy against cyber operations. And many times they will just fail country gone into a spin or a chaos because of information warfare or cognitive warfare, where they are still struggling to have a cyber missile systems, nuclear missile systems. The being that it many times the country will because of the cyber capabilities. And the last one, last important is take country you for that lead if you made resilient against cyber attacks or cyber war tomorrow is the most powerful against mighty countries. And exactly what the Russia has done, they have reduced their footprints of foreign companies over a period of time, 10 to 15-year time. They allowed the operation to run by the foreign entities, but they kept building the capabilities and they remain functional. Their internet service providers capability remains functional despite the fact they have been brutally breached many times, but still they are functional and resilient against the attack. So, yeah, let me summarize the entire thing that in 1990 time, everybody was talking about information security. When the DDoS attack, distributed denial of service attack started in 2010 or 2008 time frame, everybody was talking about cyber security. 2020, NIST came out with very nice book. They talked about that will be breached. A determined intruder will enter your house and breach your house. We need to build the resilient, cyber resilient systems. 2022, everybody is talking about is cyber is an engineering problem. We require engineered solutions. Our ability to respond and recover at the time of crisis requires significant amount of engineering skills and capacity building. Time to look for capacity building as one of the weaponry against the cyber warfare. One last slide, don't take any attacker lightly, because when the war happens, the rule of the war is to breach all rules. So small attackers will be hired, and a small attacker can hack your systems if your attack surface area is very big. You have to keep reducing your attack surface area on daily basis, and that is the against the known attacks. And against the unknown attacks, sharing your information on real-time basis will actually make you resilient against cyber attack. the last word of cautions internet Atmanirbhar every
Still, there's again a disruption, Balaji.
from the source of
Excuse me.
Thank you. And the you
Balaji,
know you from
there's a lot of disruption from your side again.
future. Okay.
We are not able to hear you,
Is it better
Balaji.
now? Yes, sir. Anything?
Are breaking up.
Now we can hear you. So please conclude in next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think internet is. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible now. It's much better now.
Really sorry. Yeah. So my last slide was very simple. That time come to cease our results. So battle at battle. Not of this cyber battle, which is digital, which is to really on it. Type is anything every idea for the real capacity.
Thank you very much indeed, Balaji, for this very fascinating presentation. We are much enlightened after hearing this presentation. I'm sorry there were some audio connectivity issues because of the broadband sort of width, but we will move on to question and answer session. This being highly technical subject, there are not very many questions. I think most of it was educational and increasing the level of awareness. So let me start with questions from the chat function. The first question is from Mr. Ankush Bhandari, who's part of Team CSA. He is asking, what are your comments on the private hacker community who has worked extensively in the past and is still active?
As a matter of fact, there is a deeper capacity issues in every countries, and being in the cyber warfare, nobody engages directly their own teams. They always create a facade, and they create a team, those from the back end, but they are not the real person within the organizations. So private players are playing a large role in this war because there is a deep capacity issues. So naturally they have to depend upon the smaller groups, and those groups are doing a small bit of work. They are making money, and they're actually doing a lot. And that's real of like it or like it exists.
So I have a series of questions from Mr. Mohinder Gulati, formerly of World Bank. And the first question is, can the probability and magnitude of cyber attacks on non-network strategic assets be reduced through isolating these assets from the internet?
Frankly speaking, Russian ballistic missile company has been attacked despite they were air gapped. So if I carry out a study of air gapped systems and breaches, there is a significant amount of work has been done world over. Israel has done significant amount of work on that. Iran has done significant amount of work on that. How to bridge the air gap system. In a industry 4.0 or 5.0, it is impossible to remain disconnected and still become functional. So internet is all ubiquitous and we have to live with that reality. So despite mission critical systems are being said they are disconnected, disjointed, they are still being attacked. The nuclear power systems of Ukraine, they have been breached twice in the last 6 month time. They were absolutely out of the context. They were not connected. If you look into the Belarus rail, their signal systems was connected by the internet, but their locomotive system was not connected to internet, but it was not functioning. So it's a very weird where you are having components and those components are being influenced to become dysfunctional at the time when you need it most. Need to be understood. In the world of GPS and RFID, it's very difficult to say which component is. And I know that there are significant amount of work has been done on RFID based hacking or GPS based hacking of the systems. And every systems, in my knowledge, has of RFID and GPS built in there. Unless you have kept the system is acceptable as by
The next question from Mr. Gulati is ubiquitousness of internet, dual technologies, and considerable industrial and financial systems network. Should the governments not invest substantially in creating cybersecurity awareness among the citizens? It's an obvious question.
Cyber is a deep problem by engineers. If you just an example of India, an example, 5 crore people targets that smart people not have yes I remember and how to this when I never fix now my first is one in still 90 blocks. You can make particular even what my it's set have very with my so I think invest to build capital many people use some how to that got reducing all fuel of India and state bank what is that not it is India 6,000 use the food or some so all from the is most engineering is building for cyber engineering which does get it to what it is today. If you look at calling and defense engineers, their numbers are not even thousands, per year across the world. We need to have millions and we are producing in thousands. So I think we need to change the strategy. You cannot reduce the of technology and reduce the footprints of frauds anywhere unless you safeguard it using the machine learning, artificial intelligence, and system interventions. Somebody has made a mistakes. We need to make sure that we make the tools which are fail safe every time, and that requires engineering skills.
Thank you very much indeed, Balaji, for coming to our platform and giving this very enlightening, very educational lecture on asymmetric cyber warfare, what lessons we have learned from Ukraine crisis. And I'm pretty sure this is not your first time, but this will be one of the many opportunities when you'll come on our platform. We had some difficulty, hearing you at times, but to our audience, if you keep on following his work, he's coming out with a detailed book on cyber warfare. So if you are interested in the topic, just, wait for his book to come and you can read the book. I'm very, very thankful to Balaji Venkateshwar I'm also thankful to our audience on a Saturday morning or Saturday evening, wherever you are. You chose to spend 1.5 hours with us. And finally, I am very grateful and very thankful to Team CSA, Mr. Ripudaman Pachori, Mr. Rajiv Verma, Mr. Ankush Bhandari, who provide me back-end support to organize this kind of events. So thanks a lot to them. We will be back again on December 11th on a roundtable discussion, and that would be a good roundtable discussion. So I invite you to be available at that time. And till that time, like all good things, this session will end. Again, my gratitude to Balaji Venkateshwar for coming for this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.